And this panel brings together leaders who are not only shaping their companies, but also redefining what collaboration means in the Western Balkans. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Kemal Babic from the DDC Group. Mr. Veljko Petrovic from Transcom. Mr. Andrew Robel from Reinventage. Bojan Šukalo from HTech. And last but not the least, today's panel discussion will be moderated by our very own ABSL Serbia board member, Mr. Đorđe Janković.
Sjajno. Ako bude nekad,
I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon to everyone and welcome to the panel Unlocking Potential Balkan Bridges for Global Impact. It is really great to see so many familiar faces and even more new ones gathered here to speak about something that really defines our region, connection. We often talk about Western Balkans as a place of creativity, resilience, and adaptivity, but what does it truly take for us to scale that potential together? We are going to explore that today through the lens of bridges, not just physical or economic ones, but also human and strategic one, the kind that connect people, companies, and ideas across borders. And we have a great group of people that are going to help us unpack this. Adi already introduced, but here with us is Kemal Babic from the DDC Group, Veljko Petrovic from Transcom, Andrew Robel from Reinventage, and Bojan Šukalo from HTech. So let's start simple. When we talk about Balkan bridges, what does that bridge really mean to you? Is it people, capital, investment, culture, or something else? Veljko, maybe we can start with you.
Thank you. First of all, hello to everyone. It's a little bit strange to talk with you when we are sitting like this in the line, but I will still try to do my best. When we talk about the bridges, maybe first to talk about the importance of the bridges. Like bridges are important, like the same as a blood flow in the human body. If bridges are not over there, then probably you are going to have a stroke. The same thing is like with a business, especially here in the Balkan region when we are talking about those 6 countries. It's ultimately important that those bridges are existing because they are practically enabling exchange of knowledge, of complete economical potential, practically the main connection. And then if those bridges are not over there or they are like rusty, close to collapse, then we are getting into the problems. Luckily, through the previous years, we have built a lot of smaller or bigger bridges. Today, during the previous presentation, we already present some of them when it comes to the initiative in the Western Balkans. I think that it's ultimately important to continue developing those bridges, because if you look at those 6 countries at this moment, to show that plastically, it looks like market of cheese on the Vlašić mountain. If you sit in your car right now and drive around the Vlašić mountain, you will see a lot of small producers of the cheese. Cheese is excellent, one of the best that I have ever tried. And you can go to each of them and buy 1 or 2 kilos. But if you want to buy more of them, then you are in the problem, because there is no connection between them when it comes to the quality, way of the production, etc. And then you, as exporter, it's up to you to create the bridges between them and practically try to export that beautiful cheese. The same thing is with the knowledge and with the potential of Balkan. Right now we are talking, and we are talking for years about the potential of Balkan, and definitely it's present. If there is no potential, we wouldn't sit right now here. But we also need to think, and we need a lot of help from the authorities to practically create those bridges and finally start to work together. Otherwise, we will never come to that 3R that was mentioned today. We will never be so big that we are important on the global market. So definitely main message, or your question was, what is it for me? It's a lot of different things, and all of them are equally important.
Great, I think we all agree. Andrew, can we hear your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing, and for me, I believe that people, and we've been talking about adaptability, resilience, and creativity being the key sort of characteristics of the people in the Western Balkans. But I think we shouldn't only focus on the artificial bridges, which are created by the authorities. I think we should start by building those bridges between ourselves. The culture is very much the same if you look at the whole of the Western Balkans. I mean, I am in Sarajevo now, but it kind of echoes what I hear in Skopje or Tirana or, in Montenegro. So, and vice versa, actually. So I think I would really look at the people and see, more of what connects us rather than what differentiates us. Because there is a lot of things that connect us. And one thing that I mean, we've talked about some numbers today. I want to mention only one. And I think it was Harris who said that there are about 16, 17 million people living across the Western Balkans. So if you look at that number, that is about 90% of Romania's population. Everyone knows how Romania has grown as an IT destination. So 90% of Romania's population. Now guess how many IT specialists are actually employed across the Western Balkans? 15% more than in Romania. And if you look at the number of students currently at universities in Romania and across the Western Balkans have 55% more students in universities learning IT-related subjects than Romania. So you can see the potential here. Now, connecting that is essential. So it's not only about the numbers, but it's about alignment and visibility.
Great, thank you. So we have now defined what bridges mean to us. Let's see now how those bridges get built when companies expand beyond borders. Each of your companies cross borders, but it's not really about geography. It's, like I think mentioned, about trust, mindset, and alignment. And the Western Balkans is small in size, but as we already said, collaboration changes the scale completely. Yes. That's why we can say, and we have a few panelists like DDC, Kemal, DDC have expanded from Bosnia and Herzegovina to Serbia, HTEC from Serbia to across Balkans. Transcom has its strong regional base. What have you learned about what actually works when trying to build meaningful cross-border connections? Can you also share an example where regional cooperation delivered tangible business results, growth, innovation, or investment? We can start with you, Kemal.
Thank you, Georgia, for your question, and thank you, everyone, for being present at the ABSL conference in Sarajevo. What we have found out in our case, actually, what works is the co-ownership of the outcomes, not just shared intent. So when the DDC decided actually to expand from Bosnia to Serbia, it wasn't going there, putting a flag, opening an office, and adding it to our portfolio. We actually added a new skill set to our base, a new portfolio, and a new group of talent to our overall pool. So apart from the integration of management, culture, and client delivery, we became one operating system as such, where we have focused on having shared P&Ls, shared KPIs, and we all work toward the same goal and within the same principles. An example of that is the client where we were required to deliver across 7 languages, which was difficult to be done from one location in Bosnia. So we involved in Serbia office into that, and we were not competing with each other, but rather complementing each other on what we cannot deliver from one location to deliver it from another location, and we worked toward the same goal. So when I look at the geographies, I don't look just as a territories fighting for the slice of the same pie. I just think that as a region, we need to start baking a bigger pie. That would be my message for this.
Perfect, thank you. Bojan, can we hear a few thoughts from your side?
What do we need to grow in this region? I don't know if mic is good. All good?
Yes.
Well, I would start with a good legal team, you know. That would be my choice for a start. Yeah. I would say the market has its challenges, and it's hard to organize things because it's a lot of borders. But by the way, let's be realistic. Even now, we have situations on the borders right now with the EU that makes it very hard to travel by car, at least. I don't know, nobody thought about that, but it's going to make our life, at least my life, complicated. Yeah. And but apart from that, I think you need some kind of. There's always a kind of small subculture that you need to understand, you know. And I would start from that to understand, let's say, legal framework, and also to understand this kind of subculture, what's happening in, for instance, in Sarajevo or maybe Skopje. It's a subtle, you know, difference, but it can make a difference between a successful start and a failure. And yeah. Apart from that, I would say mainly the talent and the other things are pretty much the same, you know. Maybe from my point of view, Belgrade is a bit, you know, more mature market when it comes to price of workforce, that kind of thing. And there's more opportunities, so you have to stay competitive. But more or less, it's the same. I would also say that these kind of things makes us here resilient and ready for some other bigger matches, so to speak. And one thing that I've learned here, just dealing with in Bosnia, Serbia, and even Bosnia has all sorts of problems when it comes to legal frameworks and how you organize companies. But it's a good prep for what can come next. And I can say that HTEC is now globally present. We have companies throughout Europe, and we expanded to LATAM, like in Guatemala. And there's some other plans ahead of us. So we are truly global. And one of the things we learn here is how to span these kind of borders, because what you learn here you can also apply anywhere else.
Great to hear that. Veljko, can we hear a few words from you? And then Andrew with
yeah, of course.
Investor's view.
Like the key learnings from Balkan is that the devil is in the details. Because when you look from a side, everything looks so similar, practically the same. But then when you start to build a framework, set up for everything new, then you realize that, for example, even in Bosnia, if you are building the site in Banja Luka and in Sarajevo, you need to follow totally different instructions. So those kind of details are really important to have a proper setup at the beginning. On the other side, when it comes to your question, how the collaboration between countries is important, practically each of our bigger global clients that we are supporting from this geographical part, it's served from all three countries, because there is not enough people in just one country to take over complete support. And that is like the best example that we cannot do anything bigger independently within the one country. Without cooperation between all the countries, it's impossible. From the previous years, there were some global initiatives that were like quite good. For example, official story about the Open Balkan was quite good, how it was promoted. But how it actually worked, it was a little bit of hell. I will give just an example that in one moment we were deciding to move one of the managers to transfer the knowledge from one country to the other. When we tried to employ him officially to that other countries, that was practically part of Open Balkan, we got the message it's not possible. Then we asked, okay, but officially on the TV we have heard that it's possible. We got the answer, then you can employ him on TV. It's not a problem. Go over there and employ. So officially there are a lot of interesting initiatives. I just hope that we will come to something more concrete and that those borders that practically right now are stopping some ways of collaboration will be open in the future.
So on this panel, I'm actually wearing quite a few different hats because on the one hand, I help international investors identify a location that would work for them. On the other hand, I'm also an analyst, so I look at how these processes unfold. But I'm also helping locations sort of become future-proof, future-ready, and future-relevant. I think Jacek was talking about relevance. And on top of that, we're also outsourcing as a company. We're also outsourcing in North Macedonia in this case. So if I look at all these 4 different perspectives, there are 2 things that are extremely important for companies that want to work with the Western Balkans. That's risk or risk avoidance. And the other one is scalability. So if I think about regional collaboration, when I see this regional collaboration, and this is what Velko was saying, that if they don't have enough talent in one country, then that talent is sort of borrowed from another country. So if I am an investor and I see that there is international regional collaboration in this case, this means to me that this region is self-organized and that it's also able to help me scale going forward. Because when investors look for a new location, they're actually looking at, like I said, risk avoidance and scalability. So they're not looking at what is available now, they're looking at what is available in a few years' time so they can actually feel safe in that place.
Maybe I can translate that also. Thank you, Andrew. Just to add to that, like usually with the bigger companies like HTech is right now, that means having a low churn because that will make also your client happy in terms of not losing much people, having these kind of costs, different kind of costs for onboarding because you lose people, that sort of thing. And definitely, if you want to scale, you would have to have some kind of presence in on each of these countries: Bosnia, Serbia, Macedonia,
Great. So we have mentioned talent. We know bridges start with ideas, but they held up by people, by talent, trust, shared values. The Western Balkans has immense talent. We mentioned before, smart, adaptive, creative, but we also know the challenge, and it was already mentioned, brain drain. So how can we turn that into brain circulation rather than loss? I will start with Bojan and Andrew. This time, Bojan, HTech thrives on cross-border collaboration. How do you balance local identity with global standards? And Andrew, from your perspective, do investors see our regional talent advantage clearly enough? You have mentioned a couple of things before. And for the end, how could we imagine, perhaps through ABSL, regional academy or shared learning platforms that develop people collaboratively rather than competitively? Bojan,
Okay.
if you can start.
George, I can tell you one thing. I think this is two sides of the same medal. Maybe that's controversial, what I'm going to say now, but I think in this region we are kind of underdogs here, okay? In terms of tough conditions sometimes, and what we, like as an underdeveloped region, and this is also why you have this kind of brain drain. On the other hand, this is why I have some of the best and brightest, the most talented people out there, if you ask me, okay? So I think we should be proud of that. We should be even proud of that heritage, so to speak, even though it's sometimes it's problematic, Well, I can tell a joke maybe if it's appropriate, So I have some people also working for HTech, and these are all, like, they're having these like universities, they've studied in Princeton, and they're laughing at me because I just don't know the names of the food in the restaurants. Because I've been growing up here, I've never had this sort of food. We never traveled actually, And all of a sudden you just hanging out with these people that had all these kind of normal things in their lives, And you see that you can be even better and you can be even tougher. So I think this is very important, and I think we should be proud of that. On the other hand, things shouldn't stop there. We should, and this is where I think we could be better, to know where we can advance a little bit, okay? And that's what I see now in the region. There's a lot of talk about the outsource. We had a presentation about, like, for instance, programming languages. But the industry is changing, the world is also changing. And what I feel we need to step up, considering the prices, considering now we're not immature region, maybe not like Romania, what Andrew said, by the way, this is a great insight.
This comes from the Future of IT report. So.
Perfect. I got it, but I haven't read it. That's like Balkan side of people. And yeah, but we need to invest a little bit more into these kind of traveling, communication, not just like, I'm talking about the engineering force. This is where I see it like we had to have a step up, to organize stuff by ourselves, to be more independent on these projects, not to have people like pointing you or just like, you just go open a Jira and see a task and that's it. That's going to be done by AI in 2 years maybe. Okay.
Is this the answer to the question that I wanted to ask you? So are we developing people for the region or for the world?
I think I would change that question a little bit. What I see now as a trend is a lot of companies hunting talent globally. And this is why I'm like even refusing to say outsourcing. Like the way I see it, what happened in China 10 years ago? They're just like producing some funny stuff here and there. And you can just buy maybe, I don't know, cheap shoes or something. And in 15 to 20 years, all of a sudden they're like the biggest producer of everything on planet Earth, okay? So maybe we're not China in terms of the scale. But what can happen here, I think we shouldn't be just a cost center. We should be more like from the cost part of things, we should be moving more to innovation and some real stuff happening. And it doesn't matter whether it happens in Hungary or here, okay? But we have an advantage. Yes, we have these borders, but we have also advantage that we understand each other, and they have this beautiful culture of ours here. So I would start moving things from this simplistic, again, a joke. When I was working for a telco company, I was in IT. I was part of their IT, let's say engineering, maybe 100 people or so. And whenever I say, can I have a bigger salary or how can I advance? They say, listen, you're a part of the cost. Because these people that generate money, they're the important ones, okay? So I think we should be moving more and more to the money generating part of the, let's say, equation.
I couldn't agree more. Andrew?
So let me start with an anecdote. A few years ago, I was in Skopje and I had a meeting with the founder of an automotive, well, actually spare parts producer that currently supports major car producers in Germany. But back in the day, at the beginning of the 80s, in the former Yugoslavia, he wanted to set up his company and he needed to bring machinery from Germany. So what happened was that he wasn't allowed to, because he was only allowed to import a specific, you probably know that better than I do, only a specific value of product. So he dismantled these machines in Germany, brought them to Yugoslavia, and put them back together. Now he is, so you can see this we can do attitude here, which I think is something we should definitely emphasize all the time. And I can confirm the same thing with the company that we are working with currently. Whatever crazy ideas we have, they never say, oh, we can't do it. Let me see how we can do it. That's always the answer. So I think that's something about the talent. Now, one thing that was mentioned here a couple of times is the brain drain, which I absolutely hate, I mean, the term, because there are things that we are able to change and there are things that we are unable to change. So why do we focus on that brain drain so much instead of creating some sort of brain connection or circulation ideas? We have, like Velko said, certain capabilities more present in one country, other capabilities more present in another country. So I would focus on that and look at the big picture. And one of the ideas that might make sense at some point would be perhaps, and this is a shout out to ABSL in the Western Balkans, to perhaps introduce some sort of a skill passport. So you gain certain skills in one country and then they are recognized across the Western Balkans. So something that I think maybe ABSL could lead. This would definitely help the recognition of certain with the recognition of certain skills, and also with that infamous brain drain.
Isn't that a LinkedIn already?
Not necessarily. I mean, this is just, something prepared for the purpose of this session, but a certain skill set with a sort of, certification that would allow, to understand everyone who is involved in the process, that once you have this passport, you have those certain skills and you're employable across the Western Balkans.
And what do you think, Andrew? Sorry.
Taking over.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just like, maybe when I see those numbers, there was a colleague from Manpower, that presented that. And maybe ABSL is a kind of organization that can do more with, for instance, with the politicians in these countries, or maybe something of that kind that can make our life easier.
I'm not sure about involving politicians, because that's a different story. I think, business always leads and, has its own principles. And there's always a workaround, I would say, and I would rather count on that than wait for politicians
wouldn't
to
wait on
come
it.
around and understand the needs.
Yeah. Okay.
Great, I'm glad you two agreed, and this is the whole point of ideas, and we will come to action, I'm sure, later in the conversation. But I want to continue this discussion with a question. What does Western Balkans need most to scale faster? Is it capital, talent, or mindset? And I would like to hear from every one of you a couple of thoughts. Maybe Veljko, I see you grabbing the mic. Yeah.
Okay, I will share with you and the audience really rare words of wisdom. Investing in the knowledge and in education is investing in the future. So when it comes to the Western Balkan and what we have right now and what is important to grow, the main question is how we want to grow. Goes, for example, from the BPO corner. If you look at the complete development right now, Western Balkan, if we talk about line 1 of support, it's not any more cost efficient. Like we should think about it going more into the direction to the line 2 or some more complex way of supporting. Practically what we already mentioned here, to practically invest in some of the, let's say, more expensive activities, knowledge that we can export from Western Balkan. At the end of the day, at this moment, again, if we are talking from the BPO perspective, all the university in all main capitals are producing a lot of people that really have a good knowledge of foreign languages. We can employ them, but now we also have in the game artificial intelligence. So it's just a matter of time when that first line of support, where you need just the knowledge of language, will be exported to some other countries far in the east. So definitely investing in the development of the talents and the knowledge for that more important and more costly important knowledge is something where we should, at least from my standpoint of view, invest in the future.
Good, thank you. Kemal, can you add a few words?
Nothing much to add actually after the Veljko, as I completely agree with him on the comment. Investing in the knowledge and the education is investing in your future, and every country should be aware of that. I would just compliment to what he has said, to I think that as well, and add to that point that what kind of education and you are developing for the future, and try to educate the people that are in the country and have educational system actually that matter by producing the talents that actually matter on a global level. Meaning that after you have graduation, after the faculties, that you have the people who are ready to step in and actually take the game on.
Yes. I think Bojan and Andrew, you mentioned adding value and innovation. Can we talk about that in this context of scaling faster?
Let me just go back, because I think this is important, the last question, whether to invest in knowledge or in the mindset or changing the mindset. I think this is very important, that one has to accompany the other, because I met a lot of very smart people, and I also meet our smart engineers every day that are, let's just say, they keep themselves to themselves. Okay, that's the, yeah. And you have to have the right kind of mindset to move and to advance and also to grow yourself. And like hypothetically speaking, if you just say, I'm going to build my mindset, then probably you're going to end up like with these PowerPoints of AI, and you're just going to present PowerPoint technology. And if you don't know what, I'm just like making a joke here, but basically that would be it. And also if you invest only in your people and sending them maybe to, this kind of I would say, very specific, or just like relying on universities or very specific conference types, so that kind of thing. That's good, but you also need to have the right kind of people to lead, which I, by the way, think it's why I'm like also investing my energy in what ABSL does here. Because I think we need also more leaders in IT space. And for instance, HTEC has had that concept of engineering manager, which is a rare breed. And you need to have that kind of thing, you know, that kind of person to lead the project, but also to, you know, to know how to lead people, even the conditions are less than ideal, okay? So I think, and also for the client to have this kind of a relationship there, that what we call like one throat to choke. We're joking also about that, but I think that's important, okay? And to have that, and we see also in HTEC, we're now a company of 3,000 people, there is a lack of this kind of talent right now. So you need to have, for instance, very solid engineering knowledge, and what we say here, that you had at least some typing, or maybe some, you know, real experience, but also you understand how business works and how you lead people.
It's very interesting. I think this idea is already mentioned. We have our colleagues from ABSL International here, and I can see this coming to action, something like Young Leadership Academy or program. I can see it that way. Andrew, from your side.
Yes, so I think I would like to invite everyone to sort of entertain the idea that maybe the definition of the word growth should be changed slightly, because it's never, or maybe it's not always, about the size, but it's also about the impact. So perhaps it's about being future ready, and it's about future relevance. And that is maybe where the Western Balkans could find their place, because what I can see is the Western Balkans becoming a lab of global relevance. I mean, if you look at the market, you have 6 different countries. They're small enough to test, to, you know, experiment and pivot if needed, but they're also diverse enough to have different perspectives looked at. So that is where I would see that regional and global growth going forward.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Great. So we talked in a way about growing within the system. I would like now to try and dare to think what if we can, what will happen if we rewrite the system. So if you could erase one existing model, whether it's bureaucracy, investment structure, or even how companies are organized, and rebuild it to truly serve regional growth, what would you erase and how would you rebuild it? Andrew, we can start with you, but also Kemal, Veliko, of course.
Well, I would probably continue with the thought that I just had, which is, you know, redefining growth, but also perhaps dropping the idea of the divisions, which is the borders themselves. So perhaps if we look at the region as a region, not as a, you know, a fragmented geography, that would, I would love to sort of erase that concept that, you know, the Western Balkans is actually divided into 6 different economies, different countries, and start by creating a mindset that we are actually, I'm saying we as if I was part of the Western Balkans. You know, being here, I already feel like one, but treating the region really as one geography, and that means creating, you know, data, for example, data sets. You know, it's really difficult to collect data related to the entire region, it just doesn't exist. You need to dig quite deep to look at how many, like I said, IT talent there is. So data, visibility, creating a program for the entire region. We're happy to be led by GIZ in that area, and we're trying to create this one single value proposition for first German companies, but also globally. But I think we would invite more partners to join us in this effort and make sure that we all think alike, that we see the region as one, and then, like Velka was saying earlier, we complement when needed. So that would be my idea for something to erase.
I wanted to add one question, but
Sure.
I think you have answered it, what would be the first visible results, but I still want to add one more question, and the answer might be obvious, but who do you think would resist it the most, the very idea, and why?
Well, probably the ones who have an interest in the complexity, the existing complexity. So I think we would have to try and identify these actors first, because the future is quite simple, and I think the ones that are quite stuck to the existing environment are the ones who would be quite resistant to change it.
Thank you. Would anyone want to join?
Good. Yeah, sure. I would like also to give my comment, and it's very similar as Andrew said. Definitely whoever has worked on the Balkan and across the Balkan understands what the complexities are within the legal system, within the labor works, social contributions, everything that goes around that. So the first one, if you would have a magic wand, you would erase the borders and try to work under the unified framework of law, of economy, and everything else. To the point of the second question, who would resist more would be, I guess, the countries themselves, as there is a paradigm shift between of the interests of businesses and what countries are trying to do. Countries are trying to protect the territory, that's why we have the borders, while the businesses are focused more on talent and the people, and it's in their best interest, the people. However, even those are diametrically opposite points. I believe they could be as well good talking points for both parties in this case.
Yeah, from my perspective, as Kemal said, my first thought when you asked that question was like, wow, erasing of borders. But then I was like, oh, maybe I will be misunderstood. Or maybe I will sound like in the competition for the Miss of the Balkan, like no hunger anymore, peace in the world. So let's be realistic, like erasing of borders will never happen. But I think that the first good step would be that among the countries, governments are not working so openly against each other when it comes to any kind of business, joint business. So that would be like the first and main step. Everything else, we have mentioned several times that do it mindset, or we will do it, whatever. Definitely here on Balkans, we are the mastermind and kings of the workaround solution because of the environment, etc. And definitely we will continue with it. But at the end of the day, we really need help also from the local authorities in order to set it up to reach that growth, or however we want to call it.
Okay. I'm going to give two approaches, because usually on let's say on projects that I've been leading, that's usually what we do. We always have one kind of strategic, long-term, and we have one band-aid, Balkan-like. Okay. So when it comes to borders, I think we all hold to our borders dearly here. You know, it's just It's a complicated topic, but I wouldn't say it's a, if borders between Germany and France could be erased, like in a couple of years, at least I hope, we won't have any here, okay? So it's a possibility, why not? On the other hand, let me just, I'll use go into a little digression here. I see more and more of a government sector getting less competitive, you know, less thorough, more sloppy. And in the same time, I see these companies here with the best engineering talent, maybe sometimes in the world. Like some of the projects we do here, you wouldn't believe what kind of companies we are serving. We are serving Fortune 500. Probably between these companies, we have like a couple of dozen of them that we are serving. And still nobody knows within these, let's say, countries and in our society here, nobody knows that this is happening. So I think what we can at least try and do is maybe we can also serve a little bit of our governments here. Maybe we can at least introduce that idea. Because they don't know we even exist. And we have some smartest of the people in the region working here. And nobody says, like, the costs introduced because of the, let's say, sloppy government, so governments not following what's happening in the business world right now. These are like billions. So if the costs are billions, maybe it does make sense to invest maybe a couple of $100 million to have some of the best engineering or consulting people to solve some of the issues we see here every day. Okay? And let's ask ourselves here, all of us here as leaders, how this is possible. And I think it's possible. And as a band-aid solution, you know, like 10, 15 years ago when internet got all complex, and then they introduced VPNs. Okay? So, like, even though you have some kind of structure, IP addresses, but it's still complex, you have, you know, like, you want to connect a company in London and in New York, and you can't do that, it's not secure over the internet. So introduce what's called an overlay, okay? So I think we might also work on these overlay solutions to ignore what's happening underneath with the governments and, you know, like even legal stuff. We have to be careful around that. But I think that's like a band-aid solution. But let's also keep an open eye on the potential of what can happen if this, what we do right now, is also invested or being used in this region.
Can I just add one more thing? Because I was talking about the borders, and I feel like I need to explain that a little tiny bit. So it's not really, you know, calling for anarchy or anything, you know, or dropping the borders altogether. What I am talking about is the mindset, really. So I'm really talking about thinking as if there were no borders. And I think the example that Velko mentioned, which is about, and I'm going to repeat that several times, utilizing the skills and the capabilities that are present in specific markets without thinking, oh, they're actually from Kosovo and I am from Serbia. You know, can I do it? That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the mindset. And I think that one thing that we can do right away, today, is to draft this joint story for the Western Balkans of that collaboration. And that will show the government as well that this is happening already. We don't have to have, you know, we were talking about, you know, roaming fees dropped today. We can still do it without that. It is still possible. So that's what I would start doing right away.
That sounds perfect. And I think we can finish with this discussion right now. I want to thank everyone for your insights, vision.
Just a brief second.
Sorry?
I would like to thank all of you, but to see from our audience if we have any questions, please do raise your hand. The mic will be at your table in a few seconds. There we have it. Can we get the mic?
Here's a gentleman.
Hi. Yes, sorry, this is Jacek again. Actually, great panel, great discussion. Maybe a suggestion from experiences that we had in different countries, both good and bad, a little bit broader than just the Balkans. I think one of the most important things that all of you actually should be doing and should be considering is to involve all the different people you have in government to support the industry, to support the businesses, and to promote not only your businesses, but the industry and for inward or for FDI, foreign direct investment. We're sort of doing this, but there's really a big difference because we've seen that in countries where you have the prime minister or president saying, hey, business services, or maybe it's manufacturing, whatever it is, but for us, obviously, it's business services and technology. And when they go on business trips, when they talk newspapers, when they do, different events, that really creates a much better atmosphere. And also when you have those investors coming in and you have those conversations, as you know, especially for some of those bigger companies, and I think you still have space for some bigger companies, absolutely, from what I'm seeing, they need to feel that the government really wants them here and that actually they are welcome. And, sometimes you can say whether it's incentives or not incentives, but in the end, actually, just the mood and the attention, proper attention and knowledge helps a lot. And I think we've seen that in some other Eastern European countries, that they can make a huge difference. So just a suggestion to some of those comments, I wouldn't just let this go. I mean, you have businesses, you have contacts, you should try to do whatever you can, whichever country or region or city you live in, to do that. You'll see, it will bring fruit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacek. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes, right here in the front.
Thank you. My name is Masha Bubin from German organization HELP, Regional Office Europe. I know that the time is short, but I wanted to give a recommendation to start not with the governments, but to start with the communities. So smaller initiatives in small municipalities, in small communities, and organize it in such way to be able to promote the unity amongst the municipalities in different countries would give a good example and show how the initiatives with the internal capacities can make lives of the citizens of one small municipality better. And by feeling it in their lives, it would be much easier to promote the example and expand to the complete region. And when we think what just ruins the bridges is always the pleasure and the fun and the joy in life. So considering music, there is no boundaries. So for our music in this region, holidays, there is no boundaries. People go where they feel pleasant. But also to learn something from those activities. But when it starts with the small communities, that is where we had also some success in our work. So starting for small communities and then promoting, because no politician will go and just, sorry for saying, maybe there are some in the room, but it's simply not going to happen that fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Masha. To wrap up, act locally, think globally, I would say. So, our time is up, but I see the conversation showed some fruits already. From the seats, we tried to go on today's conversations and the panel discussion ahead. Once again, the panel discussion was brought to us by our partners from Transcom, and I would like to thank all the panelists. Now, I would like to invite to the stage Mr. Adnan Behman to wrap up day one, and see you tomorrow in the morning for day two of the ABSL Western Balkans Conference.